as always, by my two favorite co-hosts of all time, Matthew Sponhour and Theo Ash. And welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot, presented by our good friends over at Little Caesars Pizza. We're Stay Hot, and they're staying ready with some hot and ready pizza for you all NFL season long. We're talking about coaching hires today. Got a little bit of a break between the conference championship games and the Super Bowl, but there's still some news. A lot of coaches have been hired and fired, so we're going to discuss those changes. And we also haven't done this in a while. We asked you guys on Twitter for some questions, so we're going to do a bit of a mailbag episode. We've picked out a few questions each that we thought were either interesting or some of them are a little funny, and it should be a fun time. But before we get into that, Matt, Theo, how are you doing on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon, evening?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah.
Can I break the news that we got our Super Bowl credentials?
Oh yeah.
Hey.
We'll be down in Vegas. I honestly I thought we weren't getting them.
I
checked
wasn't
my
looking
email.
good there for a minute.
You thought you weren't getting them. FanDuel had my back if all went wrong.
You had
Damn, that's
your
crazy.
backup plan.
I would not have given you my third of the Airbnb money. I promise you that, big dog. If you had gone and not us two, nah, man.
That's all you.
No, I would have asked FanDuel to get you guys.
I probably.
I don't know if FanDuel can just give random people credentials.
But we did it.
Either. But we did it. We'll
know.
be down there. So drop in the comments what you'd like Blaiden to ask Patrick Mahomes.
What?
And we'll make sure that he gets right on that.
Why am I asking Patrick Mahomes the question?
Because I don't want to wait in that media scrum, dude.
So I have to wait in the scrum to talk to.
But if you wait in the media scrum, I don't care. That's
Yeah,
fine.
Theo doesn't want to wait to talk to Patrick Mahomes. It's fine if I do.
You go ahead. You're I don't know.
It's crazy. It's like we didn't have those, and it's like, well, we're either not going or I'm going to be on a plane in 5 days. You know.
Well, it's not that we weren't
Vegas.
going. Like the cancellation time had expired, so like we were just gonna be on vacation. I guess you weren't gonna go.
I'm not.
I would've been-
I'm not going
it
down
would've just
there
been
without
sad.
credentials. I would be like
And expensive.
outside the radio row, being like, "What's going on in there?"
Well, it's already been
Trying to
paid for.
recruit someone to
going
give
on
me
in
like
there?
trying to get someone to paint a courtroom sketch of like the event.
We'll have,
There's McAfee's. Here's a map. There's McAfee's booth.
We'll be
There's where AJ
sitting up
Hawk
top of the
sits.
fucking spyglass and like a radio antenna trying to like pick up what
up the
everyone's
signals.
saying. Yeah.
Find some college kid and give him an earpiece and try to like get the questions in like through someone else.
It's like just repeat after me.
That's not. Luckily, we won't have to do any of that,
Yeah.
and we'll just be down there. So that'll be exciting. And
Yeah.
I'm feeling good that we got that done. I checked my email from
Yeah.
last year, and I saw that I got my confirmation on the 26th of January last year, and I was like, oh boy,
Yeah.
we are not getting that.
Shout out Blue Wire.
They made it happen,
They made it happen.
so I'm in a good mood.
Oh yeah.
Glad. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm pretty good. For the first time, maybe ever, I
Hey.
ordered something from Depop and it came and it fit.
No.
Really?
way.
This is not my first time ordering something from Depop, mind you. First time I'm ordering something from Depop and it fits. So I'm really happy about that. It's just a sweatshirt. It's really
I
not
was
that
about
big
to
of a
ask,
thing,
what
but
was
it's the, it's the principle of it. It's the fact that it worked. Usually I order it and it's like a large and then it fits all weird. And I hate it and then I get mad and then I see something else. I'm like, oh, this time it could be different though. And then it never is.
But this time it was different.
And this time it was different. So
Let that be a lesson for everybody
Keep swinging.
out there. Yeah, I'd
Is this
rather
gambling
go
next
advice?
Depop order is your best.
0
one.
for 30 than
Is this gambling
0 for
advice?
9.
Just keep betting.
something.
Eventually
like
you'll
that.
hit big. So the whole Stay Hot podcast having a whale of a time.
Oh yeah.
So let's get started talking about these new coaches. And this coaching segment of the show is brought to you by Prize Picks.
A lot of coaching hires going on, and we're just going to go down the tracker and kind of talk about some of the head coaches as well as some of the big coordinator ones. Starting off in Atlanta, hired Raheem Morris, defensive coordinator former defensive coordinator for the Rams.
Well, yeah, we talked about this a bit on the last episode. Yeah, let's just skip that one.
Okay. If you want to listen to that, go to the last episode. Do we want to talk about Joe Brady staying as the Bills offensive coordinator?
Yes, I would like to talk about that a little bit. I think pretty interesting development in the middle of the season to fire Ken Dorsey and bring him along. And the direction he went with the offense was kind of fascinating to me. The de-emphasis on Stephon Diggs in favor of a more well-rounded approach, tweaking the personnel usage, being super heavy on the sixth offensive lineman. I just was wondering, is that the best direction to go? Obviously, they had fallen short in the playoffs in years prior. Maybe something needed to change. But in the back of my mind, I always kind of thought going away from Stephon Diggs and making that choice, was that the right choice to make? Or do you want to maximize a receiver like that? Or maybe he was just forward thinking and saw the decline coming, or maybe the decline was because of what Brady did. That's kind of what I'm trying to square in my head.
I mean, it's the question with Diggs is weird because I mean, he went 13 straight games this year without 100 yards. He went the final 7 games without scoring a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, you think about how many number 1 receivers this year that were both healthy and had their starting quarterback or a good quarterback throwing to them. How many other guys are on that list other than Diggs?
That didn't go through a wide receiver change or a quarterback change and were healthy the whole year? I don't know off the top of my head. I guess Jacksonville.
I'm pretty sure it's
Lawrence was healthy all year.
Ridley. But is that it? Diggs
Stroud was mostly healthy, but yeah, he missed those 2 games. I guess I don't remember if Nico Collins played all. Plus, Stroud didn't even play all 17, so I guess
I don't know. It may be, so. I think it's a pretty short list.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it could be a marriage of both. Maybe they were just trying to throw defenses off, and maybe also there was some decline in Diggs they saw.
I think it worked. I thought the Bills' offense was very good down the stretch. I thought they were incredibly successful. I don't think it's the reason why they lost to the Chiefs. We saw what a very good offense can look like against that Chiefs defense. By all accounts, the Bills should have put up 27 on them. That's enough to go win a game. And the fact that they became a more balanced team that is better at running the ball. I mean, before Brady, we were complaining that the Bills don't run the ball enough. Now they get into running it, and Diggs slows down a really, a huge amount, and we're blaming that on Brady, I guess, but I don't think so. I don't think that lack of production can be attributed to just different play calling. We see guys in all types of offenses succeed. It doesn't have to just focus on Diggs for him to produce.
Right.
Yeah, that's where I'm at. I thought Brady didn't have any kind of spotless record. It's not like everybody on the offense was maximized because of the Diggs thing. But I do tend to fall on that side of things where they did need some balance, and they did get that with Brady. I thought one of the issues I had with Brady, bigger than Diggs or anything like that, was in that fourth quarter of the Chiefs game, going back to the well too many times in terms of the heavy personnel and being predictable. Their run pass splits from that look under center, it being something I don't know, 35 passes to 2 runs. And then you get in that look and run the ball in the fourth quarter. Of course they're going to know what's coming and like sell out to stop it. And he just kind of went back to that, I thought, too many times. So in terms of having development over the course of the game and setting things up, like doing something early to set it up late, I thought that was not apparent in their playoff game plan. And that was a bit of an issue that I had with him, but he deserves, I guess, a bit of time to, maybe the next time they're in that situation, it won't go down like that. So I like it, I guess. I'm fine with it, I should say. But I think Brady needs to have a bit of growth from what we saw, because the offense really wasn't that much better than what we saw with Dorsey, if it was at all. I mean, it was still good. It was still good, obviously, but it was good with Dorsey, right? So I think, if you fall short at all when you're the Bills, but you can't just keep changing the variables over and over again, I guess.
All right, well, then I guess we should move on from Buffalo. We can talk about the Browns hired a new offensive coordinator, Ken Dorsey, in place of Alex Van Pelt, which it's an interesting move from just the Browns office. I don't know. It feels like they're giving Stefanski, because there was a lot of people calling for Stefanski's head through the first half of the year. And then the second half of the year, it was, we'll give him coach of the year, right? Because they made the playoffs and all that. But it does feel like this is some pressure on Stefanski now to have a really good season. It's okay, everyone's going to be healthy.
Well, should he not have pressure on him?
Oh no, he should. No, I mean, you're not wrong. He should have pressure, but it's okay, we're going to give you we'll give you a new offensive coordinator. You're going to have everyone back healthy. This is the year. And I think if the Browns underperform next year, he probably could be gone.
And it's pressure on Watson. I mean, the fact of the matter is the Browns offensive coordinator doesn't really matter much if the quarterback is freelancing and not running the offense. It's dead serious, right? What does he work on? What does he practice? These are all questions that crop up when I watch Deshaun Watson. And the reality is, when the offense underperforms, like it was doing when he was the quarterback, I mean, they were one of the worst offenses in the entire league, he's going to get coaches fired or changed or swapped out. It's just the and you can't, I mean, Stefanski's a good coach, so it's not him, so it's the offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, I have a lot of faith in Stefanski. I think a lot of the reason why the Browns saw success this year is because of him. But yeah, Watson is... You're so stuck in that Watson deal is the problem. It's you can't just get rid of Watson. So it's well, we have to change something.
Exactly. So you go get Josh Allen's coach, and Watson should look like Josh Allen. I mean, that's been the far from what it's looked like. But if he's not gonna follow the script and he's gonna kind of freelance and try to make plays, why not take a guy who really had the trust of the league's top playmaker in Josh Allen? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think Allen wanted Dorsey fired. I think McDermott wanted Dorsey fired, right? So I think it makes a lot of sense. I think the Browns, their backs are against the wall in terms of what they can do to improve the offensive side of the ball, as long as Watson is their quarterback. And I think that this move makes a lot of sense, trying to accomplish something with the constraints that they have and the constraints that contract puts on the team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So a lot of pressure on that offense to do well this year.
Yeah. And, I mean, Dorsey's been the offensive coordinator for a lot of successful quarterback seasons. I get it. And I agree. If you're going to go pay Watson all that money, you got to do everything in your power to try to make him have an MVP level season, really.
Yeah. Man, it's got we have to make it worth it. It's to some degree. I don't know what else. I don't know what else there is, but I don't know. We don't need to spend too much time on that. I just thought it was something worth bringing up. But the Raiders are next up on the docket, bringing back the interim head coach, Antonio Pierce.
This is an interesting one.
Yeah.
Do you follow his Instagram at all?
Why would I follow his Instagram? Do you?
Yes. I love his Instagram, man. It's just him like making hype videos for himself and like smoking cigars and being
God.
Raiders.
Making hype videos for himself
every day. Yes.
This
But I
is
don't know.
insane.
I don't think he makes them for himself, but he posts them for himself.
That's so funny.
He got that Raider in him. So it's good that they hired him.
Raiders.
The Raiders.
His profile picture is just him.
No
It's a
one can
little
see
blurry.
what the fuck that
Yeah, I know.
It's
It's not focusing. It's not.
But go look at his profile picture and you'll see what Blaiden was saying. Here's a little bit of what scares me. I don't disagree with this hire, right? Last time you had the interim head coach and he made the playoffs. It was an awesome story. And then it's like, sorry, we're going to go get, we're replacing you. And it turned out ugly. And I remember that like sad ESPN article. It was like, he wrote letters to all of the players thanking them. It's like, oh man, that sucks. That guy's not coach anymore. So this time around, like same thing happens.
He's the Packers special teams coordinator, and our special teams was ass. So those letters clearly didn't have enough juice. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah. You're almost worse than
Pierce kind of does the same thing, where he like turns it around. Like really, this was a huge turnaround for him, and the defense goes from I think like bottom 10 to like top 5 in EPA or whatever it was from before the time he was there to after the time. But I always think, and maybe this is an unfair comparison to make, I always think about Freddie Kitchens.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he took over, he had like that 8-game stretch where the offense was cooking, but it was against like all of the very worst defenses in the NFL.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then all of like, it was like, well, the offense was way better when he was there and he's our guy, right? That's what a lot of it. I remember Browns fans saying this a lot, like that's our guy. It was the same thing with Baker or whatever. And then, it ended up being a disaster. So I always think about like that type of hire, and there's some real similarities here. I don't disagree with it. I don't. I think the team's just been so devoid of an identity and
exactly
this type of energy that keeping that in the building is not a mistake. But there are some comparisons I could draw to stints that haven't worked out, I guess, would be what I have to say.
I mean, it's a statistical fact that hiring the interim is not as successful as hiring a coach just on the market, right? Like going in a different direction. It's not as successful as your average head coaching hire. But for the Raiders, I think they're in a bit of a special circumstance because they gave Gruden a 10-year contract, and then they gave Josh McDaniels like a 6-year contract. They're kind of running out of
money. They have a lot of money on the books for
they're probably like
right now.
And then there's a coach that's in the building. No one else is going to hire him to be your head coach, right? Like, I cannot imagine he's anything but the least expensive head coach that they could have hired, right? Your star player is demanding a trade if he doesn't get hired, Max Crosby.
Yeah.
It's like he fits like the Raiders' identity kind of perfectly. Like the Raiders kind of have a built-in culture, like they kind of have this built-in identity based on who they were in the past. But that's like kind of all
being
you can.
The Raiders.
Yeah, they just are the Raiders. Like cheating is encouraged. That was a sign, like Raider rule number 1, like cheating is encouraged. We're the tough guys. And you have this cheater as your head coach. Like you have someone who got chased out of college for recruiting. It's perfect. Like he's like this. I don't want to call him a cheater. You know what? It's probably the word cheater.
What school did he cheat at again?
Dude, I'm grateful that he cheated or violated whatever the kindest spinning of this is at ASU. I got to watch Jaden Daniels, Ayuk, Herm Edwards. Like, I got to watch the most entertaining era of ASU football that probably has been in a very, very long time. And I don't care that you had recruiting violations and now it's all gone, because I'm out of there. So I'm grateful for Alec Pierce. I have no beef towards him. I'm thankful that he was our AD and defensive coach. I hope he drafts Jaden Daniels and they just build ASU West or North, I guess, because ASU's already ASU North.
It's already pretty west.
It's really not that far away from ASU, so it's kind of just, Nevada ASU. I don't know.
ASU Pro. We'll
Pro, yeah, something. I don't know. Okay. But I like the hire. I think it makes a lot of sense. I'm not totally optimistic that he's going to lead them to a Super Bowl or anything, but I think that it was a pretty common sense action for them. I mean,
go ahead.
I don't think Harbaugh was going to the Raiders,
Right. Are the Raiders an attractive coaching location? Probably not.
Yeah, probably not super, and they're probably not super rich to woo anybody at this point. You're
telling me Brady can't hit with his minority ownership?
Yeah, true. Brady is the owner, and he just got that $540 million Fox deal to be their number one broadcaster. I'm actually excited for that. It kind of sucks that Olsen got demoted, because Olsen, in my opinion, was
but why don't we
a top tier guy? Us?
Yeah, man.
We ain't
as a broadcaster, I would be horrifyingly bad. I can't even imagine. I think it's amazing that
literally dog shit.
But for $500 million, I think we'd figure it out.
No,
I really don't think
we would be a waste.
Someone give you $500 million.
What I need is $540 million.
You're just not going to figure it out.
No,
yeah. What would figure out would be a 4-year course in school. Then I could get good at it. But I never tried it.
I just don't know if I got it in me.
I think I could get good at it with years of reps.
I don't think I ever could.
I think I could get good at just about anything with years of reps.
Okay, someone comes up and gives you $500 million and they say you have a week to figure out broadcasting.
No,
it just couldn't be done.
Not possible.
You have to have that dog in you. I don't.
Okay, Blaiden. How about if you're so confident?
I'm not saying I'm confident. Okay. I'm just saying if someone offered me $500 million, I would figure it out.
No, I just want to hear it.
Okay.
Let's see. The Browns. Jerome Ford, 15-yard touchdown. He makes
15-yard touchdown.
Yeah. They run it outside zone. He cuts
outside
back
zone. To the left or to the right?
He makes the safety miss. The safety is Marcus Williams.
The safety is Marcus Williams.
He cuts back on outside zone, finds a crease. He's one-on-one right safety. Makes him. He cuts right. He cuts right.
So it was designed left. He cuts back right.
Yeah, it's outside zone left. He cuts right. It's him on the safety. He shoots him out, and it's a touchdown. And let's hear the call.
All right. Watson under center, first down and 10, takes a snap, hands it off forward, running left, cuts back, Jerome Ford at the 15, at the 10, at the 5. Marcus Williams makes a miss, and it's in for the end zone.
Marcus Williams makes a miss. Oh, he hold it.
No. But you see, I had 5 minutes, not a week to prepare. If I had a week to prepare,
if you had a week to prepare, you'd get the name right. You also would have
0 seconds to prepare for what's actually happening.
Yeah, but I could just.
Yeah,
and also I didn't have $500 million. That's the other. It's like
I don't think money makes you perform better. I think that just makes your bank account get bigger. I don't think that it makes you a better announcer with money on the line.
Yeah,
but anyway, yeah, maybe I forgot about Brady. Maybe money wouldn't be an issue for them at all. That maybe. I'm overrating that.
But I think it's worth pointing out that they've spent a lot on coaches already. That's maybe we need to take a break from giving coaches $100 million.
Yeah, and they kept Patrick Graham, That's a huge deal as well. If he left and the staff got totally gutted, then I would feel pretty rough about Pierce's chances. But keeping him around is just as big as keeping Pierce, if not bigger.
Yeah.
So I like what the Raiders did. I think the culture thing is real, and I don't know if they'll be the best team, but they kind of overperformed my expectations this year, especially when Pierce was the head coach. So I think he did earn a shot at it, and I think it just makes a lot of sense for where the Raiders are at. They're probably Mike McDonald, probably better, right? But like, I just don't know if the Raiders are going to be able to get that done. So
Yeah.
Steph Curry makes you believe that you can do anything. I mean, look at me. He has me believing that I can shoot threes when I play pickup basketball. And the Curry 11s are specifically designed with ultimate bounce, grip, and stability to allow everyone to do their thing. New generations of ball players are coming up and showing the basketball world that the old rules do not apply. The future is exciting, fast, positive, and hungry. This NBA season, rock your favorite player and rep his shoes on and off the court. The Curry 11s are perfect for both the committed and casual ballers. The UA Warp Tech makes the shoe feel like it was designed for your feet, locked in no matter what you do on the court. Stop in your tracks with dual density UA flow cushioning and traction, an emergency brake that you don't even notice. Steph's 11th signature shoe steps into the second decade of his sneaker career, pulling colorway inspiration from the wonders of a positive and modernized future on and off the court. Take these kicks with you when you leave the scrimmage and rep UA wherever you go. Do your thing. Change the game. The Curry 11 Future Curry is available now at currybrand.com.
Well, I think if we want to move on to the other team in the AFC West, and probably the biggest hiring, because we're just going in alphabetical order on the list, but it's Jim Harbaugh going to the Chargers. And we were just watching Michigan film yesterday because we were watching Blake Corum film. You think he's gonna turn Herbert around with that what is he running, like 21 personnel, 13 personnel? Just
I don't think he'll turn Herbert around, but I think he could turn the rest of the team around.
Turn the rest of the team around and turn Herbert around. No, we love Herbert here.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. It's just a short time frame you're trying to get things done on. You hire him now. How long do you have before he's in prison? I don't think it's through a season. I want to see what it plays out like.
Prison.
Yes.
I think
the Supreme Court's getting
and if Herbert is somehow an accomplice now or what, I mean,
I will be Herbert's lawyer.
You see, Your Honor, it's not his fault.
Your Honor,
they can't run the ball.
He had nothing to do with
it's.
Your Honor, he was framed by Austin Eckler.
How much does Herbert have to pay you to be his lawyer for you to be a good lawyer?
Nothing.
You would
Pro
be
bono.
Herbert's lawyer
I'd pay him to be his lawyer. Nothing.
Pro bono.
I'd do it for free. I would.
He'd have to pay me not to be his lawyer.
I bet he would.
I'd be showing up like in the gallery, like with they have like your family and friends like supporting you behind you. I've seen that in courtrooms. I've never actually been to court, so I don't know.
We're gonna do a mock trial of Justin Herbert.
Stay on mock trial.
Justin
in the
Herbert
Harbaugh litigation. Harbaugh litigation.
I do think it's a good hire. Like if we're assuming he doesn't get arrested, which probably
50-50.
going to happen. 50-50. Yeah, it's a good hire. I mean, Harbaugh's been pretty successful everywhere he's gone. He was really successful with the 49ers, and he brings an identity to the Chargers that they just haven't had in a while, right? And I mean, that's what you were hoping they'd had in seasons previous, and the defense is just really soft, and the run game isn't there. Yeah. And while I don't know if Harbaugh changes the fact that just talent wise, I think the Chargers are a pretty decent amount away. I wonder if they stop looking like the team that is best on paper and then totally crumbles now that they have Harbaugh. And I wonder if maybe some of the guys where you're like, they didn't have the best season last year, start to turn things around a little bit.
Yeah, I expect it to look like his brother John's team, honestly. Like, I expect them to turn into the Ravens. They've got the quarterback and they have a Harbaugh, and that guy can build a staff. And already it's Jesse Minter, who's one of the hottest names out there, running a scheme that is like super desirable right now, that has joined him. Like, who knows who else he's going to poach from his brother's staff in Baltimore and bring with him from Michigan. And yeah, I think it could get pretty scary pretty fast. You look at what has happened since Harbaugh left the league, and what year was that? He was at Michigan for what, 8 years, 9 years, something like that.
I think it would have been probably 8, or would have been 14 then.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was him and Greg Roman and Colin Kaepernick, and they were running shit. And then Greg Roman went to his brother's team, and then he ran shit with Lamar, and then Monken tweaked what Greg Roman did, and it kind of lit the league on fire with Lamar and with the defense that they had. And now Harbaugh is probably going to bring in, I don't know if it'll be Greg Roman or someone else, but like, he's got the whole blueprint of like what you're looking for right now comes from the Harbaughs right now. Like, that's kind of the blueprint. So I think it's very good to have a Harbaugh around. I think that they're just a good duo of brothers to be coaching your football team. And I think history has shown that over and over and over again. And Jim is honestly the more successful of the brother and of the brothers. And maybe that's not true because John has the Super Bowl, but
and he beat him in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, he did.
That's true.
Still, that was like the last time they were in the league together. They were like both in the Super Bowl. Like, it's just good to have a Harbaugh around, and I expect them to be able to run the ball a lot better than they've been able to do, and I expect them to tackle a lot better than they've been able to tackle. I'm interested to see how they
Blake Corum. This is a lock to replace
or signing Derrick Henry in free agency.
Yeah,
that'd be
something
interesting.
Like that. I could definitely see it. I don't think Herbert will throw the ball like that much next year. Like, Lamar didn't throw the ball that much this year. I think that he doesn't have the running aspect, so he'll probably throw it a bit more than Lamar. But I expect this to be a really balanced offense and efficient, and I expect it to be
do you expect it to look like Michigan's offense from this past year?
No, because J.J. McCarthy isn't someone who's necessarily dropping back and passing a whole lot. Obviously, you've got to incorporate that plenty, but I do think that I think it could look a little bit like the Bills, honestly. Like, we just got done talking about Joe Brady and what he did. Like, he committed to the run plenty. Yeah, he was really multiple with his person, like 12 personnel, tons of that. Heavy personnel, like tons of that. I expect it to look a little bit more like a polished version of what they were doing. And they were able to do all of that and sustain a superstar quarterback like Josh Allen. I think that's kind of the formula that the Chargers are going to follow. I just expect them to like do it even better, because I don't know if Herbert is better than Allen. I don't think I'd say that at this point, but they're in the same tier. And I think Harbaugh is better than McDermott. And I think whoever they bring in could be better, could be just more adept than Brady. The problem is they got to build the roster out to fit it. But
yeah,
we'll see. I'm interested. I'm very interested to see what happens. I think it's going to work though, until, yes, like Matt said, Jim Harbaugh goes to prison or is kicked out of the league, or something happens with him, because it always
I'll say this
seems to.
The big contract negotiation that fell apart with Michigan was they didn't want to guarantee him his contract in the event that a punishment came down from the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
I might have done that if I was Michigan. I think I would have guaranteed
through punishment.
Yeah. Right?
I mean, how long would it have been? Like a year suspension or something?
Who knows? I would have preferred that, I think. Maybe it wouldn't have helped anyway. I might have done that.
Yeah, it's tough to say exactly what Michigan could have done because the details of Harbaugh's contract aren't public. Like, I heard a rumor that the Chargers are paying him $16 million per year, which is pretty ridiculous for a coach. Like, maybe like Michigan just straight up could never have matched that. But I don't know. I guess I don't know.
The boosters don't have that.
I don't know. At Michigan, maybe they do. I guess Tom Brady also, when he's funding his Raiders coaching search, could have also funded Michigan's.
I'm just saying, Bama boosters kept Saban around.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what the booster market and college, the going rate for a college coach is, to be completely honest. So I'm talking out of my ass.
Fair enough. Yeah, Chargers needed at the very least a culture change, and I think Harbaugh can provide that.
Yeah, and the Chargers were the best destination, right? Like, working, they sucked everywhere but quarterback, but like, they are an LA team with Justin Herbert, so they should be able to go out there and get their guy.
And they gave him $16 million apparently.
Yeah, and
I would do that.
Yeah, I mean, they should be able to sign whoever they want, and they did.
Right, that's fair. Moving on to the New England Patriots, they brought in. I shouldn't even say they brought in. They Gerard Mayo is the new. Yeah, they kept
promoted.
Promoted. That's the word I was looking. Thank you, Matt. Promoted Gerard Mayo to head coach after the departure of Bill Belichick. I mean, we've talked about Belichick a decent amount. He's still a good defensive mind, but the player acquisition has not been outstanding in recent years. And at the very least, you just needed a change. So
I think Mayo is a little bit of an unknown, I would say. I mean, he's been in the Patriots organization for a while, and they obviously trust him, but just seeing him, with the Patriots doesn't give you a huge sample size. He's also, I don't think he's even 40. He can't be. Is he?
No, he's pretty young. He's 34.
Yeah. Jesus.
I mean, he was just their linebackers coach. So what strong opinions I can draw from that, to be completely honest, I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, their linebackers have been good. I love the way Jawan Bentley play. Like, I love the way their linebackers play. I thought Mapu was a good pickup for them in the draft. He was like a safety linebacker hybrid out of like
Sacramento State.
Sacramento State. I was like San Diego State, but I think that school might even be too big. Yeah, Sacramento State. And they got him right. Like, he was giving them good minutes, and like, they did it again. Same thing with Kyle Duggar. Like, you draft him out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. No one really knows much about him, and then bang, like, he's all good. And that was happening on that defense. To this day, they've been able to develop talent. So I think that it makes sense to, almost like the Packers, right, within their quarterback room, groom someone for a couple years and then find the answer inside the building. And they hired, or they're set to hire, apparently, DeMarcus Covington as their defensive coordinator. That's an in-house fill. So It seems like a lot of just a reset on the Patriot way. Like, we're not blowing it up. We don't think Belichick's ideas were all bad. We don't think his culture was like rotten.
Right.
We just think it's time to cut the overgrowth and let the guys who are younger, the guys who might be able to connect a little better, the guys who it just might be their time, who have learned from Belichick, but also can put their spin on it, to be in the room. And I don't hate that idea. I think it would be tough to completely eradicate Belichick's influence from the program, like, in a year. Like, if you got to fire everybody and bring in
you couldn't like
someone completely
reset.
new.
I mean, you're already having to do a pretty massive reset because you're losing your head coach and your general manager in one piece.
Right.
So just like trying to, I mean, it's the first season they've had to do either search in over 20 years, let alone both at the same time. So, I mean, yeah, you don't want to be doing everything all at once. And the Belichick tree of coaching isn't exactly the most prolific either. So
Or good.
there
Yeah.
is some concern that, like, I mean, this could just not
But-
be good either.
Vrabel and Flores weren't totally bad, although
That's
they all
true.
have kind of had this reputation of being tough to work with, maybe just a little
Maybe
stubborn,
they all
perhaps.
think they're Belichick, but they're not.
I mean, that's just the tree, right? And I think Mayo is the same
Yeah.
way, but I don't think that's a horrible thing for a head coach to always be, is like stubborn and like kind of an asshole. Like, I don't know, like
It's a football team. Like,
that's Saban. That's Saban. I feel like a lot of the great coaches could probably be described that way. So I like the hire.
I don't hate it. And I mean, like, at the end of the day, are we going to sit here and be like, well, maybe he could be stubborn and maybe that would be bad? I don't know. We don't know him.
I don't know.
Never met the guy.
I guess.
It makes perfect sense. How about we put it that, like, it makes perfect sense that
Yes.
they hired Mayo. I think that makes way more sense than just leaving the Patriot way and the dynasties of the past in the past and just forgetting about all of it. I just think, obviously, you want to stay grounded to that, but just put a new spin on it. And I think that's what happens. And they're not going to have Belichick in charge of the offensive personnel anymore, which was their big problem. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting continuity on the defensive side of the football, and that's what you're looking for. So, because it was good. So I like it.
Yeah. I think keeping.
And he
the
made
defense
Fox News
together.
mad for being woke.
Did he?
Did you see
What was
that?
he doing that was woke?
No.
Oh, he just said like, he acknowledged that like people are different races, and that made them mad or
How
something.
dare he?
He's like, I do see color. It's like, yeah, man, because and then their Fox
Horrible
News was
person,
like,
man.
"Oh, you say you see color?" It's like, okay, guys, I thought we were all supposed to be the same. Okay, Fox.
But yeah, Patriots makes sense. What is next? Oh, here's another coordinator one. I guess two. They're set to hire, the Eagles are set to hire both Vic Fangio and Kellen Moore, but I don't think either of those are set in stone yet.
Yeah, I think that's going to be an upgrade over what we saw. I mean, it's going to be a change. I think
it
that
better be an upgrade over what we saw this year, which was
Bad.
Yeah, I mean, on both sides of the ball, especially down the stretch.
Yeah, I think that Moore is going to fix their we don't run the ball problem. The Cowboys were more committed to the run 2 years ago with Moore than they were last season with McCarthy, even though McCarthy made a big stink about wanting to be a more run heavy team. They're going to actually run outside zone a lot. Probably they're going to change their personnel up a bit more than they did. They're going to get under center. More likes to be under center, which the Eagles basically never did the past 2 years.
Yeah.
Which I think that variability is going to help them. Not being so one-dimensional is going to help them. And then on the defensive side of the ball, like we all know why they like Fangio. He was in the building when they won that Super Bowl.
Yes,
it's going to be a hell of a
was.
lot better than Patricia. So we got to keep clipping along. I don't have too much to say.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Steelers. Arthur Smith is their new
I love Arthur
coordinator.
Smith on the Steelers.
Yeah,
I agree.
Okay,
I'm a big fan of it.
I tweeted out and I asked Steelers fans how they felt about the hire.
Well, okay.
What did they say? What
do they think of Arthur Smith? And what did they have to say?
The people that commented had mostly good things to say, but on the poll, it was like 60% negative.
I think that he's going to be a good fit for Pittsburgh. I think he fits their personnel well. Like,
I agree.
They've got the best running back duo in the league, or at least it was down the stretch. You know, he's someone who's gonna lean on those two. Their line, I thought, gelled this year. I think that line's identity fits what he wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
They've got kind of the variable tight end room. I'm excited to see what he does. I think Darnell Washington is going to be on the field a lot, and they're going to be in 12 and be in 12 personnel with Pickens and Deontay out there. Like that's your best 11 guys. And yeah, let them cook a little bit. I think that so the play action heavy stuff and the run heavy stuff, it's not like they're going to draft a skill position player at 2 overall and then waste him this season. I think that his schemes fit what I think he's kind of an upgraded version of Matt Canada. I think when you get to the kind of the heart of what those two wanted to do, like it's kind of similar if you squint, but like Matt Canada was completely predictable and fraudulent, and like Arthur Smith is actually talented at designing like a really zone heavy rushing attack with like play action and passing concepts off of it. And Matt Canada just all he knew was like, we're going to run outside zone. So he had like a Madden playbook just calling it over and over.
I mean, I think Atlanta left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth. People forget that when he was in Tennessee, he was one of the most sought after guys. You know, after, you know, the seasons that Tannehill was having, he was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the league. That offense was really, really good. So, I mean, I think he can definitely have a lot of success in Pittsburgh.
That's all true. I mean, I'm looking forward to the Pickett, Rudolph, Ritter quarterback battle. I think
and Tannehill's in there somewhere too.
And Tannehill's in there somewhere. Somebody's getting cut. It's going to be really sad stuff. No, but I like it. I agree. I think it feels like they don't have a path to getting, bringing in a big time quarterback. And if they want to be, a tough, like run heavy team, Smith isn't a bad guy to bring in.
No,
he's not.
Yeah, I think that
people are going to make jokes
fits
about it, all off season, but he fits what they want to do. I strongly agree.
I mean, what joke is there to even? It's like, who are you going to exclude? Like, who is like the big star that you're excluding from this offense? It's like, unless you're putting Calvin Austin as like the number one target on the field, like
you'll probably make that joke, or you'll be like,
they might make that
Steelers
joke,
back,
Calvin. Everyone drafting Calvin Austin in the first round of fantasy next year,
right? Something like that.
Yeah. Okay, I guess, but yeah, I think it'll be good. It'll be good.
Yeah, I just don't see. Yeah, I don't see how it just is like any kind of disaster because there's no one to waste.
It can't be worse
unless he goes. Yeah, like unless he goes. Who's their third bet? He brings like Benny Snell back and runs him instead of Najee. But like that's just not going to happen.
Snell.
That would be dope though. So
it would be
even if.
Fair. Anyway,
you're telling me a running back room with Benny Snell's the 1, Najee Harris is the 2, and Jaylen Warren is the 3 doesn't move you? No. Oh, well. Moving on.
Actually, yes, it does.
Oh, okay.
I changed my mind.
He changed his mind. Moving on, we have Seattle. Mike McDonald, new head coach, had a killer defense in Baltimore this year. And if anything that Seattle needs, they were right there with Philly for the worst defense in the league the back half of the season. They need, and they had some injuries too, but they needed to just have some sort of change. And I think McDonald's probably the guy to get it done there with the way he was sending sim pressures all year. And just, I mean, he got a really productive pass rush out of a unit that on paper did not look super talented coming into the year.
Yeah, and he has better personnel in Seattle, I think. He's got a linebacker who can really blitz in Jordan Brooks.
Yeah.
He's got defensive backs who can really blitz like Witherspoon. Like he's a peak blitzer. I
don't know about the defensive line being better personnel. Maybe on par with.
Yeah, probably on par with. I mean, Matabike is a total beast. I don't know, like Leonard Williams isn't as good as Matabike, I guess. And Clowney and Owe were probably like Mafe and Owosu are a good edge duo. But you're right. That's probably more on par. And then when you add Roquan Smith to the whole thing, like, I guess Baltimore does have. But it's a good defense for like the personnel in Seattle is like perfect for what he wants to do, right? Yeah. And then you have the offseason to like add to it, man, I'm going to be hyping up. It's going to be 2 years in a row where I'm like, man, the Seattle defense has no reason not to be number one.
I thought the Seattle defense was too talented last year to be as bad as it was. Like, it wasn't great, but to be the worst defense in the league, I thought was completely unserious given their talent level. I mean, they have multiple good corners, and they drafted a good rookie slot player. They've got one of the best linebackers in football. And you're going to get guys back. You're going to get Nwosu back on the edge, and you had Mafe on the other side. I think that should be a really dangerous defense.
I agree.
No doubt about it. I think that when you look at his scheme and the players Seattle has, I think all of a sudden this looks like potentially the best hire of the coaching cycle. Like, I just see the fit like so clearly. I see the bodies. I see what he wants to do, and man, I'm just so excited to watch the defense next year. I am
They're gonna
pumped.
Seahawks fans, you should be excited.
Yeah, I mean, they're one of the more talented rosters not to make the playoffs, if not the most talented roster not to make the playoffs. So you get a coordinator who is just absolutely killing it, and yeah, it's very easy to get excited. I 100% agree. And they're really not that far away on either side of the ball from being really dangerous and really complete. So,
yeah, and if their line, like, even if they brought back Carroll, like, their offensive line is going to be a bit better next year than it was this year. Just because of health,
was so banged up. It was so beat up all year.
Yeah, so you're getting
Abe Lucas and
this innovative defensive mind, and then hopefully a bit more cohesiveness along that line. Like, I think they could vault up extremely quickly. I think that they're pointed in the right direction.
Yeah. We'd be excited to see what they do as far as player acquisition goes in the off season, but they're not on the wrong path right now. Let's see. We've got a couple teams left. I guess only one for coaches. Tennessee hired Brian Callahan to be their new head coach.
Yeah, I like Callahan. He was kind of a name I wasn't super familiar with. He didn't call plays in Cincinnati, but I think that everything kind of fit together as the years went on. And I kept expecting regression from Cincinnati after they went to the Super Bowl and lost. And you see like the effect that can have on a team with Philly. Like, it's hard to repeat. It's hard to keep finding answers. It's hard to continue to be at the top of the league like after that happens. And they did it. I mean, they were back in the conference championship the next year. They had a chance to go to the Super Bowl if that Texas edge rusher Osai doesn't, interfere with Mahomes out of bounds. I think that the job that they've done has shown a lot of growth over the time that Burrow has been the quarterback there. I think at the beginning you could say like, okay, the coaching staff isn't really what makes this click. But as time went on, I think that became harder and harder to argue. And I think that a lot of the things that they did, whether it be like, too much play action or too much shotgun, like too predictable in certain looks, like it's always play action under center. But I think a lot of that was what Burrow wanted to do. I think Burrow dictated a lot of what they ran, and I thought they fit the scheme pretty perfectly around him. They overhauled their running game in the middle of the year, like they were zone heavy, and then they were like, man, we got these big bodies, we got these guys who are more power than finesse, and they went gap scheme, like washing everybody down and pulling a guy, letting him like blow people up. Like they kind of went through that in the middle of the year. I thought a lot of what they've done these past couple of years has kind of sold me on that coaching staff a little bit. And I don't know. I thought that this was a bit of an under radar, but potentially underrated hire.
Yeah, I thought it was a little weird when Tennessee. I think we all thought it was a little weird when Tennessee decided to fire Vrabel. But I don't know. I know there was a rumor that Zach Taylor was actually planning to give Callahan play calling duties next season.
I could see it definitely.
Which, I mean, that's been
he was the longest tenured OC in the league.
I mean, that's been the biggest criticism of Taylor has been his play calling. I feel like in Cincinnati, kind of in the whole like Burrow era. But yes, I mean, if that's true, I mean, at least pretty relatively high praise for what he could be in Tennessee.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is kind of directionless right now. I think
maybe with
bit. Levis and Henry gone, it's like, man, what is this even going to be? And I trust Callahan to warp their identity around the current group. I don't think that he's coming in with something like, oh, he's going to like Arthur Smith. He's going to come in and run Arthur Smith shit, right? Like we know what that offense is going to look like.
Yes.
I think it fits Pittsburgh's personnel, so I like it. I don't know what fits Tennessee's personnel, right? Like their personnel is just kind of weird and scattered and like not that good. But I think with Callahan, what he's shown is the ability to find that, like find an identity, like communicate with the players, find what works best. I think that there have been time and time again where they kind of do quirky things or change things or tweak things in the middle of the year, do things that other teams don't do or are outliers, like the play action stuff and the shotgun stuff. And I think it all has to do with what the players' preferences are. And and obviously the Cincinnati offense had a ton of success. So I liked this hire. I thought that he was good the more I looked into him.
Yeah.
Really, there's no hires that I was like, man, this one's ass. Like, Antonio Pierce is probably like the least inspiring one,
yeah.
But even then, it's like I totally understand why they did it.
Yeah, and it could end up being bad just because of the history of interim hires,
right?
But I don't know. I mean, what else? Yeah, like we said, what are they supposed to do?
Same thing, I guess. Not fire Vrabel, but it sounded like that working relationship just sucked. So I mean, I get it. If you're not having fun and the team's not winning and you're arguing with your coach all the time, there's no trust there. Like, yeah, he has a lot of potential. He's a good personality. I think he's a bit of a Dan Campbell type of figure where he's like just a pure, rah football guy. But if it's not working, it's not working. So it's tough to say like, oh, they should have just kept Vrabel, because it's like, I just don't know how feasible that relationship was, but I wasn't in there. So
fair. Well, that's all the coaching hires. So I guess that means it's time to get into our mailbag. We asked you guys for questions on Twitter, and you gave us some questions to answer. And this mailbag segment is brought to you by Little Caesars Pizza. So come stay hot and ready with us while we answer your burning questions. These are all from Twitter. This question is from Joe Co King Do 151. He says, should the Bills explore trading Diggs to someone like the Commanders for a worse wide receiver to open up the cap? We were just talking about
Commanders fan.
That's a good question. I think it's a Cowboys fan. It's a Bills fan. It's a Bills fan.
I think they could explore trading Diggs, but I don't know if it's because of cap issues. I think if Diggs was still performing at like the level he was last year, and everything was good with the relationship between Diggs and Allen and the Bills, like you shouldn't trade Stephon Diggs while you're in this window. But I do think that with the way he performed in the back half of the season and the way that it has kind of been a rocky or tumultuous relationship this year with his brother chiming in, like Allen wasn't even good until Diggs got there. Like, I don't know how much to read into that, but it certainly seems like where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So I think there is a world where it is better for both parties to move on. I don't think they can do it until after June 1st. I remember looking at the cap ramifications, and it's like, after June 1st, they would actually be saving money. So maybe it's a deadline trade next year or something that happens this summer. I don't know if it happens before the draft.
I could see a deadline trade. Like maybe you bring in another guy and then you go into the season. You're like, well, let's see where Diggs is. And then, if he's performing well, I don't know. And then like they were giving him so many targets in the first half of the season. I mean, he had, I think, multiple games with like 15 targets.
Yeah, it completely changed when Brady got around, and if Brady's coming back, like, and you're Stephon Diggs, you got to be looking at like, what does a season look like for me, right? Like, I don't want to go through what I went through for a whole year. I mean,
if he had a whole season, like the back half, he would have had like 800 yards.
Oh yeah, so I think it's actually very possible that Diggs gets traded with the year he just had in Buffalo and what the coaching staff is shaping up to be. I don't know if it's above a 50% chance, but I think if there's a big trade this year, like Diggs would probably be at the top of my list of like potential guys that could be involved.
Where would he go?
I don't think the Commanders makes a lot of sense, but
who knows?
Houston.
I mean, he still did have 160 targets on the year. I know it tapered off towards the end, but 160 targets is no joke.
They didn't like completely like stop targeting. I mean, he was still getting like 8 targets a game or something in that final stretch. But it was just like in the beginning part, he was getting like, I mean, you would think he's like the only guy on the field the way they were throwing it to him.
Yeah, he definitely wasn't getting many successful. I mean, he was getting 8, 9 targets a game in the back half, but how many of those were successful? Like it didn't feel like many. So it's really only like probably like 4 or 5.
I guess it depends on who you think it's on, and maybe that's something to investigate this off season.
I kind of think it's on Diggs, honestly. When I watched him in the back half of this year, I wasn't really. I mean, shocking. I wasn't really moved by his performances. Like he dropped a bomb in the playoffs. I watched him against the Patriots face single coverage, and he wasn't really able to dominate. I still think that he could be a good receiver. Like, I don't think that he looked totally washed. I mean, he even had a catch against KC that was pretty impressive, like away from his frame, and was able to kind of slither upfield and pick up some yak. I'm like, I don't think he's athletically washed, but he's not playing well. So I don't know. I think a trade is possible. I definitely think a trade is possible.
But would you? I think you'd have to. You know what? I'll say. I think you'd have to be in the building. This is, and there's a lot of things in the NFL and the NBA like this, where it's like, sometimes you have to know the relationship more than we can know the relationship. And it also depends on what Buffalo thinks they can do receiver-wise, because, you don't want to trade. It's not like, well, we have to trade Diggs and then we're just going to suck at receiver and we don't know what our game plan is. You got to have a game plan. You do. And maybe, who knows, maybe this would be a good year to do that. It's a lot of receivers in this draft. It's a lot
deep
of guys.
receiver class.
It's a real
think
good
about how they
class.
got Diggs and like what the Vikings, they traded Diggs away and drafted a guy, right? So I definitely think that it's possible. And my answer is yes. I do think they should explore a trade. Should they for sure trade him? Obviously it depends on the market, but I think they should explore it.
Yeah. I mean, the phrasing was, should they explore trading? I think yes. Absolutely. Yes, in anticipation of the combine soon, this is from Ryan. What drills do each of you think you would perform best at?
Definitely something like a throwing drill.
Probably
more than any like.
I don't think I could be okay at any of them. Or do you mean like the measurement testing?
You could do bench press.
Measurement? I would do 6'5".
Well, I mean like strength. Or like okay, you were talking like the throwing drill or like a catching drill. I was thinking any like drill. The RAS. I could put on weight and be like a 10 at like quarterback or something.
Matt's just trying to stack his RAS.
10 size. 10 size at corner and don't do any of the drills.
It's like, he's 6'5", 250. He's a tank.
Don't say anything else about him.
That's it.
He's 6'5". I don't know how much you weigh. 6'5",
no, I was saying you
pounds.
Say you would put on weight. So I was like, he's going to get up to 250 and he'll be a tank.
You better not think I weigh 250 now.
No, hell no. Unless
you think I'm like really strong, like Superman or something.
No, I know
you look like you
250.
have density, dense bones.
Dense bones.
I look dense, thanks, buddy.
Do I look dense in this dress?
Do I look dense.
Do these pants make me look dense?
I don't know. I don't think I would be much good at any of them.
My only hope would be like a throw. I think I could throw a nice spiral.
Okay.
I could have a good arm.
Yeah.
Believe it or not. If there's any aspect of playing football that I could do, it would only be throwing. I couldn't guard. I couldn't catch. Like, I can't track the ball. I'm not very coordinated, but I'm pretty accurate, and I can get a kind of a nice spiral going if I'm in a rhythm. So the only thing I could do is throw. I'm a quarterback at heart.
Hey,
I'm a Monday morning quarterback, not a Monday morning
quarterback,
defensive tackle or anything like that. So, how about you, Blaiden? I mean, we've seen you run the 40.
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know if I could.
You could
run
do the
a
receiver
4-4,
drills.
4-4. Yeah, I would do receiver drills. The only one I know I probably would be bad at is that one where they have to like run down a line and like catch one and then drop it and then catch the other, and then that's the only one I'd be like, ooh.
What other receiver drills are there?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess it's just normal routes on air, right?
Yeah, I could do the routes on air. I'll do that. Just give me some routes on air. If Matt can just do measuring at 6'5", then I can run routes on air.
Okay,
I think that's fair.
I could measure tall. I can't jump. I think that I can't jump. I can't run. And I mean, I guess I'm probably like a little strong, like a little bit, but not by any NFL standard. I'm not quite at a 225 bench, so.
Yeah, we'll get you there. Don't worry.
Do they not? They should squat for the combine. If they're going to bench, no?
I could see that. But
I mean, they already do like broad jumps. So that's kind of like your explosive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
We have two more, and these are real football questions now. This one comes from Rory, and then in parentheses, Brandon Ayuk fan. What are some NFL teams most set up for playing well above expectations, and which teams are set up for disappointment relative to fan expectation, in your opinion?
I think a team that's poised to play above expectation is probably a team like, I don't know. Well, it's obviously got to be a team that no one has any.
Right.
I think the Commanders could be not that bad next year.
They don't have a coach.
They don't have a coach, so maybe it's early.
But here,
I honestly, I think the bones of an okay team are there.
Anyone that's like hired a coach that we're like, oh, but like, we can't say Seattle. They just hired Mike McDonald. Everyone's going to be kind of higher on them now.
I would say maybe. Could the Jets be an answer? Like, they still have the defense. No one is gonna. Though. Are they like when Rodgers comes back? No one's gonna be like. Hype. Who's gonna hype up Rodgers? Like, no one on Twitter.
They had 7 wins this year. You don't think Rodgers is getting them to the playoffs?
It's gonna be the same thing as last year.
Exactly. It's gonna be the same thing.
All right. Okay.
Well, I don't know. Like, who is not going to have expectations? I think I don't know.
Maybe Tennessee.
Maybe.
But that division's going to be tough with, Houston looks real good. Indy's going to get Richardson back, and they were a game away.
Underperform, I don't disagree. It's probably the Lions. That's what everyone's saying, just because they made the NFC Championship game and the schedule will be tougher. But I actually think they could be. I guess that's what everyone's thinking. And I guess that's why I kind of almost kind of flip on it where, they could be a better team next year. Now, it might not translate to more wins because the health luck might not be as good and their schedule might be tougher. But they have all the tools to be a better team. And once it becomes playoff time, like anything can happen. I think Lions fans shouldn't get too down, For every, Giants team you have where, they won 11 games in a playoff game, but then, it was all the one-score luck and the next year they're really bad. There's a Bengals team where we expected them to flop and they didn't, right? Yeah. We expected them to regress and they never made it back to the Super Bowl or haven't yet, but they certainly were the level of contender they had been the year before.
And I think the only thing that would have made me The only thing that would have made me regress on the line to feel like they would regress next year would be if they lost Ben Johnson. And that's the one thing we didn't talk about, like with the coaching, is like retaining Ben Johnson, I think, is huge for that offense going forward.
I think a team that could fall short of expectations, maybe Cincinnati. They just went through the coordinator drain with Callahan going to Tennessee. They might be losing T. Higgins. They might be losing Tyler Boyd. Their line never really materialized into something great. Their defense was actually pretty rocky this year. They don't have a ton of stars on that side of the ball. Obviously, with Burrow coming back next year, the expectations will be like this is a Super Bowl contender. But I could maybe see them struggling a little bit in kind of the same way the Eagles did to some extent, like maybe becoming a bit too dependent on the pass, like without Callahan there, like it just gets to be a bit too much for Burrow. Like I don't think that they're immune from having a down season as long as Burrow's on the roster. You know, like Burrow is amazing, but no one's ever going to write them off. And I don't know. That's a team that's kind of standing out to me right now. Like Baltimore's in that division. Like
the good ones are a lot tougher to pick, I think.
Yeah, there's just so much. The problem is there's just like so much optimism with everybody that it's kind of tough to say like someone's gonna overperform in a major way because like everyone's expectation is their team gets better.
Yes,
I think I don't know. I think if you told me the Commanders had a really good draft, I absolutely could see him being all right or kind of surprising, or you know if May comes in and they make some good hires and you know they got 2 high second round draft picks, if you get some hits and I think they've got money. It's like I know there's some real big needs there, but and like the receiver room isn't like super far away or anything. Like I don't know. I could see it coming together for them a little bit quicker than people expect.
Another disappointing team, potentially the Rams for the same coordinator brain drain reasons. Like Raheem Morris is gone now. Like everybody's going to say like they do have McVay, but you know Stafford's going to be another year older. I don't know.
Wiser.
Yeah, so I guess I don't have a lot of conviction about that. I'm just looking at teams that are in the playoffs and that could miss them next year. I think about, you know, Kyler getting a weapon, like Seattle getting a new coach, and then the factors that are there with LA. It's like, are they going to repeat their second in the division performance? Because I bet a lot of people will have them probably picking, you know, being the 3rd best team in that division by this time next year, or by this summer, I should say.
Yeah, maybe. But Matt, what you were saying with Washington, that kind of segues into our final question from I am Demetrius, at I am Demetrius. Who should Washington hire as their head coach? Because like you said, they have a lot of cap space. They have high draft picks. Could be a hot destination.
Pete Carroll.
Belichick,
Vrabel. I honestly think there's a lot of good options out there.
Yeah,
like this is kind of the year where
Carroll and Belichick, I think, are good coaches. I think they're very, very old, you know, and I stand by that being a concern.
Yeah, but like if they're kind of in a tight spot, like man, we need an answer. Like Ben Johnson was our guy.
If I was Vrabel, I'd be glad to go there, man. New ownership.
Vrabel would make a lot of sense.
Quarterback set, draft picks, capital or cap space. Like, yeah, man, why not?
Yeah, I see no reason why they'd have to settle for a cut rate coach, like bringing the enemy up or hiring Dan Quinn or something like that. Like, I think like even short term, Belichick would be a guy that at least like even if it's just 2 or 3 years and then he retires, like it could be a good 2 or 3 years, you know, and then. It's better than bringing in. I think that would be way preferable to then like promoting the enemy or something like that. Like I think they've got some good options out there.
Yeah.
So I mean, those guys were. Agree. I mean, Vrabel was like top tier on my coaching tier list, and Carroll and Belichick like were like A tier on that. So they've still got some guys that they could interview, that they could talk to, that they could potentially woo. I don't think it's over for them.
No, definitely not. Could go quite well, but that's all for the questions. So
that's all for the episode.
Yeah. No more podcast. Go do something with your lives, everyone. Instead of listening to us for 90 minutes, that time's over. But make sure you come back for our Monday episode, and then we'll be getting ready for Super Bowl stuff. If you're in Vegas, come say hi. We'll be around. But otherwise, we'll be, talking to Patrick Mahomes and asking Travis Kelce what it's like to date Taylor Swift and, the thick of it.
Damn. The Packers just hired a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, who?
Jeff Hafley, the Boston College coach. I will be DMing my good friend Tyler Budge about this.
I was about to say. Let's see what CF Budge has to say about this, because
Boston College.
I don't know. I know he got into it. There was like drama between him and Boston College's punter, I believe, because he predicted Boston College to do quite bad.
Tyler was beefing with he told me that a couple at the beginning of this, he's like, man, I really just don't like the Boston College fan base right now. They all hate me. And then I tune in after the bowl games and he's beefing with the actual team.
Oh my God.
What?
The punter,
what are
yeah.
What did you do?
This is insane. But yeah, make sure you tune into all the Super Bowl stuff we'll have coming up. We'll try and keep you updated as best we can with what's coming. But until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. And until next time, we will catch you on the Flippity Flop.